Are you in your late 30s or maybe early 40s or beyond that? And the life that you're living and the work that you're doing and everything that's going on, you're still pressing towards your vision, towards your dreams come true, and it hasn't happened yet. And do you feel a little bit maybe discouraged sometimes because you look at other people that are much younger than you and they seem to have it all going on. Everything's working out exactly according to plan for them, and they're not having the same difficulties or struggles or heartbreaks or failures that you had when you were their age. Does it make you feel like you kind of missed the bus a little bit? Well, hey, you're not alone, but guess what? You're exactly where you're supposed to be, my friend. Come on into the soil with me. We're going to dig into this together. Hey, I'm D. Grant Smith, the growth farmer for personal development through the lens of spirituality and storytelling. And what I have for you today is some big encouragement, inspiration, and empowerment, especially for those of you who are like me and you are not in your 20s and 30s anymore, but you're still pressing towards your big goals. You haven't left your dreams behind you. You're still imagining, you're still envisioning, you are still believing in the best possible you and the best possible life for you. And because maybe your life looks completely differently than some of the things that you see on social media from people that are much younger than us, who seem to just have this magical golden ticket working for them. And everything they touch turns to gold, and everything they do works out perfectly, and they have zero losses and zero failures. And it makes you wonder, what does it take to actually get to where these other people are? I want to give you some encouragement, my friend, because I've spent a lot of time in that place and it's not a very encouraging place to be. What I'm learning in my own spiritual journey and my own personal development journey is that each step along the way and each of these seeming failures are actually preparation for exactly where God wants us to go, because our dreams coming true is not only still possible, it's still something that is in the process of unfolding. So that's what we're going to dig into today together. Let me ask you this question. Were you once a very big, wide eyed dreamer, maybe in your teenage years? You knew exactly what you were going to do, you knew exactly who you were going to be, and you knew how life was going to happen before it actually happened. Many of us are like this. When we're younger, it's easy for us to envision ourselves being wildly successful, having all of the money and all of the splendor and all of the success that we see our heroes living in and experiencing, without actually digging into the story of what it took for them to get to where they are. We don't have as much of a hard time imagining and getting into that place where we are living the life of our dreams up here in our imagination. It's easier to imagine the end goal when we're younger, before life hits us in the face and before the world challenges us in all the different ways that challenges happen, trials, tribulations, difficulties, and bringing our lives, our dream lives, into fruition. But there's something that often happens to us when we get into, for a lot of us, myself included, get into our early to mid 20s or our early to mid 30s, when life takes all kinds of dramatic changes and pivots and shifts. And we find that our initial vision becomes something very different than what it was several years ago. Sometimes that's a failed business or financial troubles. Maybe it's relationship issues, woes, or divorce. Maybe it's the loss of a job or the death of a family member or dramatic issues within family. And there's a litany of other challenges that can totally derail the dream life that we once envisioned. And when this happens, it can feel incredibly debilitating. Add to that all the stories that now, thanks to social media, we get to see all the time of people who seem to be living their dream lives in their early 20s or 20s altogether, or maybe even their early 30s. And everything they do, once again, it just seems to flow like magic. They don't have any of the same struggles or problems or difficulties that we do or did have. Everything they touch turns to gold. There's no problems for them at all. And there's so many online gurus and experts and Insta celebrities that showcase their lavish and successful lifestyles without showing or talking about some of the challenges and difficulties that they face to get to where they are. And I really believe that even the instant celebrities that are in their early to mid 20s, they had some challenges that they had to go through too. They just don't talk about that stuff. But they're super successful and they're super young. And we are in our 40s or 50s or 60s, or maybe even beyond. And we still have the dream, but we haven't experienced it yet. So, what's up with that? Did those of us who are at the age we are miss something that would have made a difference, maybe when we were kids? Was there a particular kind of breakfast cereal that we were supposed to eat as a child that would have ensured our success? Maybe if we had been more dedicated and had that bland bowl of Cheerios, or eaten more Wheaties instead of digging into Captain Crunch or Fruit Loops. Maybe that would have led us to bypass the trials and the difficulties that adulthood has brought us, but others somehow escaped. Now, as I continue to pursue my passions and rediscover my purpose, I recognize that not every path to the envisioned success is paved the same way, and that there's actually profound strength, resolve, and longevity that comes from not achieving the end result of our goals very early in life. So, once again, if you're like me, and you don't have to be necessarily in your 40s, maybe you're in your late 30s, or you're in your 50s or 60s, but you haven't given up on that dream. But life has dealt you a multitude of hands that didn't work out the way that you wanted them to. But somehow, you are still in the game. Are you somebody who refuses to give up on yourself, no matter how long or how much work it takes to bring your dreams into fruition? Well, if that's you, welcome. I'm with you too. I mentioned earlier how I envisioned my success when I was a younger person. When I was a teenager, I saw myself becoming an all-star morning show radio host on a major market radio station. Because when I was 16, I had my own radio show on a very, very small station in a little town called Alvin, which is a suburb of Houston, Texas. 5 years later, I would be working at a radio station and have a whole lot of responsibilities that included basic station management and having a team of employees. Well, they were fellow coworkers, but I was managing them in a variety of different capacities. But I also created my own radio program, which is called the Appetizer Radio Show. Was called the Appetizer Radio Show, and that ran from 2003 to 2019. I did all of the groundwork myself to get it syndicated to over 40 stations across North America. Now, all of that work was beautiful. It opened up the doors to all kinds of relationships that I get to have with amazing musicians who inspired me, and I got to be a part of the early days of their story along their pathway to success. And that whole experience brought me to writing my first book, which is called the DIY Musician's Radio Handbook. If you're an artist or musician and you want help with getting your work out to more people, building relationships within your industry, and especially gaining some recognition or really relationship connection with people in the media, I'll put a link to that book below. You can grab it for yourself. I wrote that book because I've been through the journey of talking to media, building real relationships with people instead of just making a bunch of endless bland pitches to people, which still suck when I receive those, but that's not the way that you actually grow your business, whether you're a creative person in music or you're in any other industry. My experience has been relationship building is what actually opens the doors for not only success in the short term, but over the long haul. And that's what the book was all about. But that was my first experience in writing a book that talked about what I had done to build any sort of success for myself. And what that also did was it opened a new door for work that I'd never done before, coaching people and helping build relationships and growing their brand and growing their product and growing their outreach to create more success for them. I learned from my experience that I could help other people do things that I had done. I also, at the time, was somebody that actually sat in the chair of making decisions for what music went on the radio, both on my radio show and at the station that I worked at. So I knew what it took to actually get in front of the decision makers. And that's what I shared inside that book. And that's also what I did when I was doing the first stages of my coaching work. I was helping people learn how to do things that I had done. And I didn't envision doing coaching work or writing books when I was a teenager thinking about my vision for the future. But having those experiences led to new experiences and new avenues for growth and new development in my own set of personal skills and ways of leadership. A few years later, I experienced something that I never saw coming either: divorce. I never saw myself being a divorced person. I'm a super committed, super loving, super dedicated, super let's go in this all the way and ride it out through all the storms. But that's not the way that it ended up for me. 2017, marriage was over and I had to pivot again. It was also during that time when I had my spiritual awakening, and that was something that would change my life forever. I've talked about that in several videos here. I'll put a link up above and a couple down below to some other videos that I've shared where I talk about more of my personal story in that way and ways that it has totally changed my life and led to not only the work that I do, but the person that I am and the person that I am becoming. I actually am very thankful for that experience now because it broke a lot of really terrible patterns that I had in my life that I was completely unaware of. But in that process of healing from heartbreak, it would lead me to do something different that I hadn't done before. I'd written a book, sure, but I never really told my story. I never really opened up and talked about transformation on a heart and soul level. And so I wrote another book called Be Solid: How to Go Through Hell and Come Out Whole. I'll also put a link for that book down below in case maybe you are somebody who is navigating through the healing process of heartbreak or personal loss. I give you the blueprint and the roadmap to my own personal journey of learning how to love myself, learning what love really is, and that being the cause of all of the change in my life that's brought me to where I am now. Now, through all of that process, another series of transformations took place. I went from working at a radio station where I saw myself being for the rest of my professional life to working for myself and also getting a couple part-time jobs along the way to help make ends meet. But now at this point in time, it's 2019, 2020, after the book got published, and I was published in two different genres by two different publishers, and my coaching business was taking on a different component of work as well. I wasn't working with musicians and creatives anymore. I was working more with individuals and helping them heal from both heartbreak and personal loss and learning how to love and believe in themselves. But I was also going through a bit of trying to figure out who I was and what I was really here for. And so because of that figuring it out process, my business was a bit up and down as well. I was operating in my talents, I was operating in my skills, but I hadn't really found my true soul passion and calling yet. I found parts of it, but not the whole thing. It wasn't until I started really writing for myself that things started to change. Now, I had spent my professional life creating things to help serve other people. That's still a big part of my passion. It's one of the reasons why I come here on YouTube just about every day to share with you the stories and the insights and the deep dives into stuff that I share with you here. I'm very passionate about serving other people, but I've learned that there has to be something for me that also includes my own creative presentation, something that actually comes from my heart and the way that I see life, the way that I see God, the way that I see everything. And it can't just be something that I'm doing to only try to give to others. There has to be a part of me in this process. And I've learned that from time and from experience and from doing a lot of deep dives. Because if you are like me and you have had any sort of codependency in your life, I struggled with it for 35 years. And I'm now becoming more aware of the subtle codependent patterns that were not as profound or obvious to me as they used to be. But now when I recognize that, I can take a step back and go, oh, that's what that is. Okay, well, that's not my story anymore. And one of the ways that I was practicing codependency was I was just doing things to give to others in hopes that that would lead to some kind of success. Now, there is a very subtle line of codependency that's in that because while my intentions might have been good, the real reason behind the work that I was doing in the service to others wasn't from a pure place of, hey, I'm really in this all the way, regardless of what you might bring me. I was really hoping that my service would lead to some kind of success. And while that isn't necessarily bad or wrong or something to avoid, in my own personal journey, I'm not trying to project this onto you. In my own personal journey, I had to come to terms with the fact that until and unless I'm really giving and loving and serving from the overflow of my heart, if I'm trying to get something from other people in the work that I do, then I'm not really coming from the best version of myself, because the best version of myself truly operates from abundance and overflow and true love. And abundant, overflowing love doesn't need to get anything in exchange to give. Now, that's not to say that we don't charge for our services when we're providing for people and we just give everything away for free, because that's also not fully loving and valuing yourself. There is a lot of nuance here, and I don't want to dig into the nuance necessarily, but it's important to recognize that when we are truly loving ourselves and when we're truly operating from the best version of us, we're doing things differently than we've ever done them before. And this process of self-discovery creates some very powerful things in our lives, including longevity for true, actual, lasting success. All this time that it takes to get us to this place builds our fortitude, builds our determination. It harnesses our natural gifts so that they can be utilized in a way that is both fun and inspiring and mutually beneficial. When I started allowing myself to write creatively, to tell stories that were in my imagination and to flow in the spirit, to let something truly transformative come out of me, I found a part of passion and a part of my passion that had been there the whole time, but it had been hidden. And that didn't happen until I was 39 years old, when I started writing stories that would come to me in moments of inspiration, when I would go for a walk or I'd be doing something completely different than work. And I will link a free story that you can download today that is a piece of what it is that I'm talking about. And it's very appropriately titled, "We Don't Know What We Don't Know." Now, this discovery has revolutionized my life in a variety of ways. Now, I don't think of work as work. I enjoy what I do. It doesn't feel like work, it feels like play. I enjoy writing, I enjoy creating, I enjoy teaching, I enjoy sharing, I enjoy empowering, I enjoy inspiring. All of this is beautiful, wonderful, soul-driven work that I didn't have when I was in my 20s. Even though I did love what I was doing, even though I did believe in myself, there was a part of me that I wasn't letting come completely out. I was hiding myself. I was unsure. I didn't know. And I was also trying to make success happen instead of letting success be a byproduct of me fully showing up as myself. I wasn't fully living the truly empowered, inspiring, and self-love story because I didn't know that story existed yet. I had to go through the trials. I had to go through the tribulations. I had to go through the refining fires for my story to fully come alive. Here's something that's also worth checking out and just being aware of. Enjoying the process is one of the big life lessons that often doesn't come until we actually get older, because we're so quick to try to rush to the big hallmark mountaintop successes when we're younger. And we don't understand that some of our greatest success actually comes from our biggest trials and overcoming them. And this resilience happens when we go through incredibly challenging periods where everything about us is tested. Our fortitude is challenged, and we get to see what it is that we're really made of. Both the strength and the determination to press through these challenges so that we not only reach our goals, but we go way beyond them. And while it's easy and maybe sometimes natural to feel discouraged by seeing some of these Insta celebrities and their millions of fans and their millions of dollars and all of their gigantic success, and they're barely 25 years old, and they're already living their dreams. Let's just remember that there are some amazing and inspiring people who didn't even begin to leave their impact on the world and create their legacy until they were our age or older. Here's a couple of examples. Renowned fashion designer Vera Wang didn't design her very first dress until she was 40. Henry Ford did not create the vehicle that would actually create all vehicles and be the base point and the foundation setting stone, the Rosetta Stone, for how travel happened until he was 45 and he created the Model T. One of my heroes, Stan Lee, was just an artist and a writer that worked at a comic book company. But he didn't create his very first successful comic book, The Fantastic Four, until he was 39. And of course, he went on to later create several other infamous characters that all of us know because of their films and TV shows, not to mention hundreds of comic book titles like Spider-Man, the X-Men, Iron Man, Thor, the Hulk, Black Panther, and Scarlet Witch, just to name a few. Toni Morrison, incredible poet and writer, didn't write her first novel, The Bluest Eye, until she was 40 years old. It took her another 16 years to win her first Pulitzer. And then she won a Nobel Prize for Literature at the age of 62. That's a lot of dedication, hard work, and commitment to herself and her craft. Martha Stewart didn't find real success until she was 41. Hey, I'm 41. That's a really inspiring story. That's when she released and published her first cookbook. Actress Laverne Cox was also 41 when she landed her breakout role on Orange is the New Black and won her first Emmy at the age of 45. All of us know Samuel L. Jackson and some of the key signature lines that he's known for. Other people say those lines, but Samuel, those are his lines. His voice and his lines are iconic. But he was only a bit part actor that nobody knew about until he was 43 years old and he got a role on Jungle Fever. All of us know and love Betty White. She's a household name. She's a beloved comedian, still years after her death. But she wasn't known by anybody and celebrated by the public until she was 51 years old when she premiered on The Mary Tyler Moore Show. And let me go way, way, way back in history. Somebody that is by far one of the greatest legends in all of human history. Leonardo da Vinci, considered to be one of the all-time greatest artists, but he was also an inventor and one of the biggest geniuses of all time. But did you know that he didn't begin his first successful work, The Last Supper, until he was 43? Now, that's just a short list of people who are not only world famous, but highly acclaimed and considered to be some of the biggest successes in the world. They didn't find their passion. They didn't live their dreams until after their late 30s, sometimes even beyond that. Now, do these stories and these people resonate with you and inspire you? If you're like me and the people that I've listed before, and you're still pursuing your dreams, here's some encouragement for you, my friend. Do not give up on yourself. So much of the challenges that we face and have faced before are actually blessings in disguise. They give us the foundation, the resolve, and the fortitude to handle all of the blessings, all of the fortune, all of the success, all of the manifestation that's coming to us. So continue to believe in yourself. Continue to believe in your dream. Continue to see your dream life in your imagination. Go in there and let that be your reality right now. And the way that you see yourself, you are already successful. It doesn't matter what has or has not shown up in your life yet. You live from that concept of yourself as already being the person that you desire to be, and you are fulfilling what Neville Goddard talks about, living from the wish fulfilled. This is what I'm doing. Regardless of what the outside world might show me, I know who I am on the inside, and that is the only reality that matters. I believe in this for me, and I believe in this for you. I appreciate you. I love you. I believe in you, and I'll see you again soon.